couple of months ago, I built a D&D world. I created gods, planets, cities, towns, factions, and NPCs, the whole package. I'd made a perfect little jewel of a setting, pristine, polished, beautiful, and utterly lifeless. I stared at my obsidian vault, full of notes, and thought, I almost don't want my players to break it. I can already picture the final showdown with the Beeg. So I did the smart thing. I scrapped it and started again. My name's Rich, this is Renegade Rolls, where we create incredible stories with our players in D&D and lots of other systems. I want the setting for my next campaign to be somewhere I can get lost in, which will keep surprising my players, me, and the folks who watch along right up until the finale. In this video, I'm going to share with you my new world building process that I'm going to use to build a setting for my next actual play campaign. Some of the advice I'll share is from standing on the shoulders of giants, and also everyone's favourite Icelandic dungeon tuber who just sailed past 100,000 subscribers, Daddy from Mystic Arts, has some wisdom to share as well.
There is a giant megacity called Blackguard, population of somewhere around 2 million people in this massive metropolis split across 31 boroughs, which may or may not be inspired by London.
London, mate, London.
London, innit?
Part 1. Find out what excites you. Starting this world from scratch, my only brief to myself was, I want a fantasy setting. Now that is way too vague. So to narrow it down, I thought about what actually excites me about a setting and started from there. That's a heroic fantasy, not a power fantasy. A sense of scale for the protagonists, layered history with big mysteries, and big events that change the world. There's a difference between heroic fantasy and power fantasy. Peter, from Tales from Elsewhere, does a great job in this video of making the distinction. The video is linked below. Power fantasy is about incredible actions with incredible consequences. Problems are solved and evil is overcome through actions, casting an epic spell or chopping the head off a dragon. Heroic fantasy, on the other hand, is about making incredible choices, which may only have small effects, but they are meaningful. It's zooming the view in to the times when the characters must decide on whether to take the difficult path, to sacrifice themselves, or those moments where they just have to make a decision at all when there is no perfect option. Power fantasies focus on the moment of action, heroic fantasies focus on the moment of choosing. And that is what I want for my table. You can have heroic and powerful moments, but you can also have heroic moments with almost zero power. The level 1 barbarian can choose to hold off the troll while the rest of the party escape. No, you run. Gragnar, stay. Fight off this troll, keep him back, give you time to escape. You remember, Gragnar, in the field with that tree. You remember, think of me. I love you all. I'm going to move 10 feet up and then I will rage, please. Now that event isn't going to stop the Dark Lord from seizing power or the Void Dragon from eating the sun, but it's no less heroic. It matters deeply to the PCs. That barbarian is a hero, dying to protect others. The next thing I think is really important is for it to feel like there's a sense of scale to the setting. In fiction, my favourite stories are the ones which don't start with a world map, but with a person. Our understanding of the setting comes through them, and as their perspective grows, so does ours. So mentioning something like a Void Dragon, whatever that is, so early on, will let our low-level protagonists know that the world is much bigger than they can currently comprehend. Patrick Rothfuss handles this beautifully. Quoth is already powerful at the start of The Name of the Wind, but the setting that's shown to us as readers is super focused. We don't get to know the extent of his powers at all. He acts within himself the whole time, and we don't get to know why. I really do want my PCs to feel like small fish in a very big pond. I'll almost certainly start the campaign off in a mundane setting, and then allow them to go out into the world and explore. The challenge for me will be in the pacing, for me to drip feed lore and information. Mike Shea describes this as thinking 2 horizons out. You can do this with anything in your world, a little nugget of curiosity, an itch that they can't scratch straight away. You look to the setting sun, and you see a phoenix, a massive bird of fire flying slowly across the clouds in the west, golden light catching off its beautiful wings. There's no way the party can interact with it just yet, but they know it's there and will totally want to seek out more information about this mythical bird. I love the idea of multiple layers of history, a world which is old and has seen many ages, some glorious, others ignoble, with each of them having an effect to a greater or lesser extent on the world at the time of the campaign. Numenera, the setting by Monte Cook Games, has a subtitle of The Ninth World. Look to the horizon. Is that a mountain? Or part of an impossible monument to the forgotten emperor of a lost people? Feel that subtle vibration beneath your feet and know that ancient engines, vast machines the size of kingdoms, still operate in the bowels of the earth. That right there is the feeling I want for my setting. That sense of the world being ancient and shaped by huge events. In the meantime, I also want to be sure that my campaign isn't set after the end of history in a stable, peaceful time. I want big events to happen during the course of the campaign, which the PCs may or may not be able to affect.
But Rich, you've just built a world. Why do you want to change it so soon?
Well, because, lovely viewer, I want the players to feel like they are living through history. Even when they're just starting out and at low level, I want them to think, oh, if only we knew more or had more resources, we could have prevented this. This might mean allowing the big to succeed in a plan, setting up the PCs to say never again. It's also a way for me to show, not tell, that we're not in a fairy tale setting. Everything isn't going to turn out rosy unless the party work hard for their happy ending. Part 2. Follow the threads and chase chaos. The broad strokes of figuring out what I want from my setting are a really good start, and those will be my guiding stars when figuring out the details of the setting. Epic events and world-changing upsets are all well and good, but rather than a top-down approach, as soon as you have a high-level pitch in mind for your setting, it's almost always a good idea to then laser focus in on the PCs and their starting location, and switch to a bottom-up approach. When running a campaign, I find it so much easier if there's a decent-sized gap between character creation and the start of the campaign. It allows me to connect the setting to the PCs rather than having them start somewhere generic. In my Dreams and Machines actual play, coming soon, I spent a lot of time post-character creation thinking about the starting village. The village of Twixt was important as the characters weren't just passing through. They were teenagers, and this village had been their home for their entire lives. So the connections they had with the people and the different places were incredibly important to them. In the end, I did as much prep for the starting village of Twixt as for the rest of the locations in the campaign, and I'm certain it was the right choice. The details of who the NPCs were to each other and to the party allowed me to make the place feel real and lived in. There are lots of ways of using the bottom-up approach in conjunction with other methods.
I want it to be like table tennis. I want to ping pong from bottom up to top down. And I want to go click, 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 and try and get the ball bouncing as much as I can, because that's when it becomes holistic for me, if that makes sense.
Fantasy feels good when it's internally consistent. We can totally have dragons that don't burn up their insides when breathing fire, as long as these facts don't contradict other things we've established. It's following the trail of, if this is true, what else is true? In a world where dragons can explode anytime they hiccup, it makes total sense for the Sunshine Sanctuary for sick dragons to have very thick walls and a very lightweight roof. Terry Pratchett was the master of this, taking something absurd and thinking through the real-world consequences. It leads to Discworld, for all its oddities, feeling more realistic and the characters' stories feeling more human than so many others in fantasy literature. The technique of if this is true, what else is true is especially useful when you combine it with the bottom-up world-building approach. You can give your world a core of super interesting details, and then you just extrapolate upwards and see where it takes you, but there is a limit. When I'm world building, there is always a temptation to go full Sanderson and codify my magic system, but I like the mystery. And to quote the late great Terry Pratchett, magic sufficiently understood is indistinguishable from technology. When I get into that murky territory, I know it's probably time to stop world building. Knowing when to stop is a challenge. Worldbuilder disease is real, it's well documented, and can seriously harm the rest of your game prep and your sleeping patterns. You are always in control of how much information to give to your players, and when and how you choose to share it. Instead of giving the old wizard info dump about time and history, I'd recommend using some of my favourite random tables in the whole world. This is the Explosive Creation D100 Ways to Deliver Information. There's an affiliate link for DriveThruRPG down in the description. Something super important to remember is that all of your world building is secondary to your character's story. There is a great reminder in Idariad's video that the world only exists as a background for the player characters, as a place for them to make decisions. I don't tell my players this, but their characters really are the most important people in the world. Even when I make them feel small as dragons and phoenixes fly overhead, I'm going to make sure that the scenarios they encounter in the world are tailored to them. It could be something as explicit as, hey, cleric, there's a whole town of unbelievers over there. They're even plagued by the undead. Wouldn't you love to go there, convert the heathens and save the day? Or maybe you could be gently provocative instead. There's a charismatic bard singing songs and reciting poems, saying that the gods have left this world. She says that it's now up to us, regular people, to shape our own lives. She's genuine in what she says, and attendance at the temples is falling. The abbot, clearly in distress, asks you for help. What do you do? Now, these situations are a lot of fun for me as Game Master, and I don't have a preferred solution. Maybe the cleric will unleash some righteous fury on the bard, or maybe their faith will be tested. Either way, it's going to be fun to find out. But sometimes, even if you're creating a super rich and detailed world, your brain just draws a blank. What can you do to get yourself inspired again? Part 3. How to award yourself inspiration. First up here is a tried and tested method that I use all the time. Let's get random. Random tables and card decks are so good for getting my brain moving. Especially taking the Mike Shea advice of rolling twice on a table and then combining the results. Having said that, it's rare for me to look at what I roll up and say, oh, that's perfect. What usually happens is that they'll give me an answer and then I'll tweak it to be exactly what I'm looking for. It's only in that moment of wrongness that I realise what I actually want.
I tend to start by what can't this be? I wanna go make something. I'm gonna add a nation. Or I'm gonna add a kind of magic or something. I'm gonna put a new ruler here, but I've got too many kings. Everybody's a king of something, and I've used the feudal typical English titles, Duke and Earl and those, so I'm not going to use those. So what can this guy be? And then I'll go on a thesaurus or something, and I'll go Sultan or Maharaja, or okay, what other options do I have? And I'll try and think in terms of the limitation of I can't call this guy a king. I made a leader of a dwarven nation recently, and I was like, I can't call him prime minister, I can't call him king, I can't call him president. He's going to be the premier of Venkara. And now I'm like, okay, that feels different. It feels like I can call him the premier, and now it's like, that's him.
The whole nearly hour-long chat is a Renegade Rolls Patreon exclusive. Daddy and I dive deep on world-building concepts and try our best, and fail, not to get too political. On my Patreon, you'll find lots more interviews with cool people, surprising stat blocks in a load of different systems, behind-the-scenes shenanigans, and early updates on my actual play. Also, if you have more coins to spare, check out Daddy's broadsheet on the Mystic Arts Patreon. It's a full-on setting guide that's being expanded every month. If you're short on time for world building, grabbing something from there can get you up and running in no time. Speaking of taking things and making them your own, let's talk about how to steal, and how to get away with it without your players noticing. Steal ideas, steal locations, steal NPCs, steal entire storylines if you like, on 2 conditions. Number 1, make sure that you don't just consume identical media to what your players do. And number 2, try and get out in the real world from time to time as well. Your creations will always be the sum of what you've seen and your own lived experience. It's going to be unique to you no matter what. If you want to make an NPC inspired by that guy who brought a crow on the bus, go for it. Also, take notes wherever you can, in any way that you can. Write down ideas when you have them, or cool things you come across on your travels. I've got a great big list of random ideas and their sources. I'll add to the list and then take things off again when I use them in my world. Some of them are absolute 4 AM nonsense. Others are straight up world building fuel. I can't remember when I wrote about the ghost knife, but this feels like a deliciously evil magic item for a cultist to carry. As any good illithid will tell you, the more brains you can have in your service, the better. Collaborating with others is for me the secret sauce to creating a world that is truly unique. This new world that I'm making is a place that I'm happy to lose myself in again and again, in part because it's a world which is shaped by multiple wills, not just one. We looked at bottom-up and ping-pong world building earlier, but I decided to try some extreme top-down world building by running a game called Playing God by Gnome Made Games. Again, link in the description because it's very, very cool. Each of the players takes on the role of a god in charge of a domain like trickery, travel, harvest, luck, innovation, and of course, death. I am the creator of all. I lie dead. You killed me. By abdicating my role as sole creator of all, and letting others create with me, we're going to have something organic and weird, but I reckon much cooler than what I could have created alone. Working together with others and leaning into the surprising directions our conversations have taken us has replaced that pristine, polished, beautiful, and utterly lifeless jewel of a world with something wonderfully odd. The very first thing the god of trickery did, James, was to make his own secret moon to hide on. Leo, as god of death, just straight up killed the god of life and became the god of both facets. Oh, and the god of travel, accidentally releasing the world serpent, destroyer of all, on the second turn of the game. There is no way I would have come up with that all by myself, but turning it into a history which I can then erode to turn into a mythology that the players in the campaign will experience is going to be so much fun. Part 4. Staying excited and losing yourself all over again. Even with all these lovely moving parts, what's to say that after a while you don't get bored again? What can you do to stay excited during the campaign? Well, it's rarely the setting that's the problem. It's the stories. It's when you feel your world is predictable and that the stories are already told, or that those in progress are almost certain to go down an established path. We can change the setting to encourage more dramatic stories. I've got 3 ways to bring back the fire, literally and figuratively, to make things fun for you again. First, when I'm feeling stuck or without a clear idea in my head, I'll ask my players, but in a sneaky, indirect way. They never get to know that I don't know everything for myself. If I'm looking for inspiration, I'll do something like this. Say the party are approaching a great city, and I'm not feeling enthused to do the prep for when they arrive. I'll ask the players to speculate, in character, about the stories they've heard about the place. Some myths, legends, rumours, and tall tales they've heard on the road. I know my players. Hiya folks. 90% of the suggestions will be wonderful nonsense, but the rest will spark something. It'll be like with the random tables. They'll give me the seed of something that I can change and make my own. I'll take it from A to B to C to make it unrecognisable. If a player said there's a criminal underworld who navigate the city by the sewer network, I'll say thank you, and then I'll check the list on TV tropes to see this so many times that it's been done before. The challenge is to take that idea and make it something unique. How about if it was law enforcement that used the sewer network instead? And what if this was widely known? It would make the people with the most to hide be incredibly cautious around those sorts of spaces below the ground. If the City Watch used the sewers, that leaves the rooftops for the criminals, which would be fine if it weren't for the dragons. See, dragons are ubiquitous in this setting and quite like sitting on rooftops. Because of this, the streets would have netting over them, and the official construction teams have means that I've not decided yet of keeping the dragons away while they work, but criminals would have no such protection. The rooftops are therefore exceptionally dangerous. You've got to be brave, stupid, or desperate to choose to stay there for long. As it happens, the party's contact in town is just such a person, and you just know the party are going to have to go up there to find them. I like that example a lot. We've just played a game of If This Is True, What Else Is True, with our players a frankly lazy suggestion to come up with something much more interesting. Keeping secrets from the party is easy. Keeping secrets from yourself is way harder. I love the challenge though, creating a question in your world that you choose not to answer. What's that hole in the sky? Where do people go when they die? When will the nightmares return? By leaving unknowns from yourself and keeping them in play while your campaign progresses, you allow them to attach naturally to events in the story. It's tricky not to assign too much meaning to small events, but every so often something happens at your table that might give you the perfect opportunity to weave one of these unknowns into your world. When you find yourself having answered one of these questions, just add a new one, and do your best to keep the answer a mystery from yourself. If you choose to tell your group that these are some of the big unknowns in the world, that the greatest clerics and scholars of the age are clueless about these grand mysteries, you can feed on your players' speculation. In my trash punk low-tech sci-fi Dreams and Machines campaign, there is a city which I knew nothing about for the whole campaign. All I had was a name, Los Carlos, which my players immediately renamed as the Charles. I had a vague idea that it would be the place where the Babeeg might be lurking. As it happened, over the course of the 10 sessions, the party didn't even get close to reaching the city, so I still don't have any more detail in place for what Los Carlos, not the Charles, is like. Unless we do a second series, it will forever be the place on the map that says, "Here be nanogram dragons." But what should you do if even the prospect of keeping mysteries from yourself doesn't rekindle the world-building fire for you? Well, assuming that you and your group are still enjoying the game, but you're just not excited by the setting anymore, you can always take the nuclear option. Break it. Take something that you assume to be a constant and change it. The Eternal Emperor dies, the dragon vanishes, the sun goes out. These moves have far-reaching consequences for the entire world, but it's the effects any of these events have on the PCs which will be the most interesting. Every single person will be forced to reckon with the changes. Will they just roll with the punches, or will it upend their entire worldview? How they react to new and unexpected events will be a test of character for them, and the group will learn more about each other in the process. These big events don't have to be literally world-shaking, they can be personal too. Someone's ex comes back into their life. A trusted ally becomes compromised by the enemy. The old sage who the party have always relied on dies. The scale of the events don't matter. We're looking for something that would affect each member of the party and force them to confront the new circumstance. As a rule, the smaller the event, the more personal it should be. A particularly brutal one I did to PC once was, you spend your downtime back with your partner in Greenhaven. The days pass peacefully. But you can't put your finger on it, but they seem distant. I am a delight as a game master. If I can't attack your PC's hit points, I'll attack your PC's feelings instead. We've covered a lot here, from finding the excitement to following your fun, getting inspired and staying inspired, but the final and most important piece of advice is that sooner or later, you'll have done enough. You've got to remember to start playing and stop world building.